Hi, folks. Happy holidays. If you're new here, I'm Camille with 30 Day Singer. We're talking about how to sing better in 2022 since I'll be gone next week. This is our New Year's inspired live lesson. So, hi, Sam, Nash, Carl. Thank you so much for being here live. Let me tell you just what I intend to cover today. We will be here for an hour. If you cannot stay for the whole thing, that's okay. It will be recorded and it will live on the channel forever. So, I would like to talk with you about technique goals for all singers, basically goals that any singer should have, genre specific goals. So that's if you're a country singer, an R&B singer, a classical singer, you might have goals that differ from one another. Want to talk about inspiration, kind of places that I find inspiration to keep learning and growing my skills. And hopefully you'll find that useful. I want to talk about avoiding the comparison trap that is so deadly. I want to talk about what progress looks like at different stages in your singing journey or your musical journey. And I want to talk about good practice habits that you can implement, stay consistent with. And of course, we'll have Q&A for the last 15 minutes, but you are welcome to ask questions as we go. Hey, Milan. Hey, Sheila. So first, some technique goals for all singers. And it's okay if you've been singing for a while and you've not hit these goals. They are something to consider. So, the very first goal, and this might seem like a given, is matching pitch. Of course, you can take that to a very high level. If you are matching pitch well, then you might start learning different intervals. You might start working on harmonizing. You might learn different types of scales: major scale, minor scale, blues scale, pentatonic scale. You might learn different chord qualities. So, all of this is contributing to your ability to understand the music that you hear, to learn melodies quickly, and to know that you're singing them in tune. Some of this happens kind of I almost want to say on the subconscious level. I've seen that happen with my own students. I have one particular student in mind. He really struggled with pitch in the beginning. He didn't have a good grasp of the tonal center of a song. The tonal center just means what's home base. So if I'm singing, for example, happy birthday to you, happy birthday to you, happy birthday, dear someone, happy birthday to you. That pitch right there that we land on is the tonal center. It's the key of the song. So that tells me the scale that the song is built upon. And just by singing scales, da 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 da, I'll know when I'm singing that song if something is off. So if I'm going happy birthday to you, oop, I got off track. I changed keys there without meaning to. So, anyways, matching pitch, that's your first goal. But if you're already matching pitch well, then some things to consider would be starting to learn intervals, scales, chord qualities. I know that delves a little bit into music theory, but I do think that singers really benefit when they do know music theory. We're the only type of musician that doesn't have to learn music theory in order to learn our instrument. Everyone else basically, when they pick up an instrument in band, like in middle school, or, I played the clarinet in fifth grade, it was very short lived, but you had to learn how to read music. In choir, you don't have to learn how to read music. Some do, and that's wonderful. But you can also just learn by ear or learn by rote. And it ends up being a bit of a barrier later on. So, for example, I did not know how to read sheet music until I went to college, and I had all this catching up to do because I had just been learning by ear, learning by rote my entire life. And I was in voice lessons, I was doing musical theater, I did a little bit of choir, and you know, it just wasn't taught to me. So, anyways, okay. Second technique goal for all singers: understanding the registers of the voice. And if you already understand the registers of the voice, I would start to understand how they relate to the keyboard or how they relate to the piano. Um, I got a question. How many hours do we need to practice a day? So that's a good question. I would say for most singers, about 30 minutes to an hour is fantastic. If you can get an hour in, I mean, that is plenty. The thing with singing is that we don't need to practice or really want to practice for 4 hours, 5 hours. Our voice is a delicate instrument and it will fatigue. And just like when you're working out and you start to get tired, your form starts to suffer. The same thing is going to happen when you're tired vocally. If your vocal folds have swollen, you might be pushing a little bit more in order to bring them together and get the sounds that you want to make. So I would say 30 minutes is a great goal for most singers. And then if you're a little bit more advanced and have more time to spend, you might stretch that to an hour as long as you're feeling good. Um, so, speaking of registers, Joshua says, I need help with my mix and I hate the sound of my head voice. It doesn't have vibrato. Okay. So, I would guess what's going on with that head voice or falsetto and why you're not getting vibrato is potentially there's not a lot of chord closure. So, if we're getting a very light kind of flute like falsetto, that vibrato is probably not gonna come. Ooh. I can sort of force it. Ooh. But it's going to come more easily if you have a little bit more chord closure. So in head voice, I might play with maybe some bratty kind of nasalized sounds like a nah, nah, just to get those vocal folds together and then start to see if that makes your vibrato come a little bit easier. So understanding the registers of the voice, that's your main registers are chest voice, head voice or falsetto, and then mixed coordination where we're using a balance or blend of the two. Within that, another technique goal for you would be accessing chest voice and making sure that your chest voice, hey, can be as strong and as clear and as loud as your speaking voice. If you're a really quiet talker, then you might want to challenge yourself to be a little bit more bold, be a little bit stronger in your singing voice. If your whole voice is really quiet and breathy, it's going to be really difficult for you to build power and, belt out those high notes the way that you might want to. So, if you're a quiet singer, if you really easily kind of flip into head voice, if your singing sounds like ah, and you're never accessing a nice strong connected chest voice, that would be a goal to add to your list. And a way to work on that would be just speaking on pitch, going, hey, no, go, 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 go. It doesn't have to sound pretty. We're just kind of going for strength there. Okay, so Joshua is saying I can belt up to an E4 in chest voice. I just recently discovered head voice. So Joshua, have some patience with yourself if you just recently discovered that whole register. Then it might be weak, it might be inconsistent, it might sound, kind of small or mousy. That's all really, really normal. So give yourself some time. Find the vowels and the configurations that do feel and sound the best for you in head voice. So some of my favorite sounds would be like a cuckoo clock sound, cuckoo, or an owl hoot, woo, or a woo-hoo, just a high pitched, excited wee, things like that. Find the sound that works best for you. For some singers, that's going to be something semi-occluded. So singing through a straw is great, especially if, as you said, you're pulling chest. Singing through a straw is going to be your best friend. It's impossible to pull chest when you're singing through that straw. Um, so, accessing chest voice, accessing head voice, as we're talking about now, and then going back and forth between those registers. That's really a good step toward building your mix. If all you've got is chest voice, and head voice, ooh, but you can't flip back and forth between them, here are two ways that might sound. You might be going, and you're just pulling up chest voice, or you're just staying in head voice. Ooh. Okay, a good goal for you, if either of those sound kind of familiar, is to challenge yourself to switch back and forth. So start in chest voice, go to head voice, back to chest voice, then add some notes in between, It's okay if you flip to head voice. Even if it sounds really, like a yodel. Right? That sounds very clunky and you might not like the sound of it, but that's actually a really good step. You're using chest function, using head function, and going back and forth between them. Remember that mix or middle voice is just singing with a balance or blend. So we need both functions in our tool belt. Um, Another thing. Oh, Joshua is saying, which exercises do you recommend for mix if you tend to pull chest? Great question. So I recommend exercises. I'll give you a few. So first, using something semi-dopey. So something like a Patrick Star voice, mum. That larynx being slightly lower, that should discourage you from pulling chest. Take note though, if you go mum, that's not the exercise. It's dopey all the way. Mum. And at some point you might flip into head voice. That would actually be a good thing for you. So if you go mum, if you're a person who pulls chest, that's a fantastic step to just be accessing and releasing into head voice. When you're mixing, you need some of that stretch, some of that head voice resonance. So again, it's a really good step on that journey. So that's a good exercise to try. The dopey sounds, mum or wah or buh as in book. You could also then use slightly less exaggerated sounds. So from ma maybe to ma ma instead, not quite as dopey. Um, so another thing you could do is start very narrow, like an ooh vowel, get into head voice, ooh, then open up from ooh maybe to and then maybe to Again, you're going from something very narrow, like an ooh vowel, that's going to almost force you into head voice. And then you're opening up the vowel to encourage a little bit more chest function, a little bit more of that mix quality. It really can take time. So be patient. It's awesome that you just discovered your head voice. That's going to immediately expand your range and open great doors for you. Um, so wrapping up these technique goals for all singers. Oh man, going back and forth between chest voice and head voice, this actually is kind of what we're talking about, laryngeal stability to a degree. I am not a proponent of the larynx needs to stay in one place the whole time. That's unrealistic and it's not even really helpful. However, what happens with a lot of beginning singers is their larynx follows the pitch. So when they sing low, their larynx goes really low. When they sing high, their larynx goes high. That's not a great habit to continue with. So, a necessary step in that journey for a lot of singers is using those slightly dopey sounds. Ma, 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 ma. You can still see the larynx is rising a little bit for those higher pitches or maybe tilting, but it's not. You can see it really clearly going super low, super high, super low. So again, laryngeal stability to a degree. You don't have to become obsessed with that, but if you do find that your low notes are woofy, your high notes are strained, that would be something to consider. Developing mix or middle voice, we're talking about a little bit here. And I think it's helpful to define a range in which that usually is happening. So for higher voice singers like myself, soprano, mezzo, alto, typically you want to start developing that mix coordination around A flat 4 and taking it up to the A, the B flat, the B, the C, and so on. For lower voice singers, tenors, baritones, basses, typically you're starting to mix around an E flat 4 and then developing the E, the F sharp, the G. Um, so it's really helpful to know that so you're not lightening into mix prematurely. If I start kind of lightening my sound way lower than that, I'm gonna lose power and lose energy really quick. Um, Angelica, let me answer your question real quick. Angelica is saying, if I booked a private lesson with you, would you be able uh, to help me change a few bits in a song that I would like to sing at my sister's wedding? Absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to work with that. Work on that with you. Um, so yeah, answer is yes. Um, Other goals, 4 last quick goals that I think apply to all singers are understanding vowels. We kind of take vowels for granted, but vowels make a huge difference for a singer. For example, if I try to sing a very closed ooh vowel, ooh, it is not going to work nearly as well as a hey or an oh. Again, listen to that ooh, how closed and pinched and tight it got. Ooh. I can't do it. The frequency of that pitch and the vowel, how it lines up, it just does not work. So, starting to understand what vowels are easy for you to sing in certain areas of your voice, that's really, really important. We That's a big thing that we do in song work. So for Angelica and anyone else, whenever you have a lyric that is tricky, the first thing we consider is the vowel. So, am I attempting to belt on a really closed oo or e vowel? I've got to modify that vowel. So, quick example, instead of singing that really closed ooh, that doesn't sound good, I would first find what's easy for me. So, the hey or the was pretty easy. Now I'm gonna fit my oo vowel into more of that shape. Ooh. Still a little bit squeezy, but way, way better than that super closed ooh. So that brings me to the next point, vowel modification. That's another huge goal for singers that just makes your life way, way easier. I'm gonna drop a link in the chat really quick. I wrote this beginner's guide to vowel modification just to get you started. Um, there you go. So, last two goals generally for all singers working towards sustains. So, that's long held notes. The way that I like to go about that is first touch the note, then repeat the note, and then start sustaining. So, let's say you have to sustain that, G4. First step would be, ba 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 ba. Okay, I could touch the note. Can I repeat it? Ba, 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 ba. Yeah, sounds good. Now I'll start to sustain. Ba, 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 ba. Then I'll just go for a straight long held note. Ba, 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 ba. And you could go, of course, even longer than that. But that's how I like to work towards sustains, even if it's in the context of a song. So, say you had a song and you had to sustain that, I would kind of pause the lesson, have you do a warm up syllable like that, just to get you used to it. We might even um, sustain on the word. So, for example, I did this with a student yesterday. She was singing You Say by Lauren Daigle. And it starts like the chorus starts kind of high. And so, what we did is we walked up, we went, you. Because what was happening is she was going, you, and flipping into head voice. So, we walked up gradually to the goal pitch. I think it was an A. So instead of going you, we went you, and then you say, and then we started the chorus. Um, Anyways, last thing that you may not need for the genre in which you mostly sing is moving your voice quickly. I know lots of singers are interested in doing riffs and runs if they sing pop or R&B, but moving your voice quickly is a good thing to train even if you don't think you're going to do a lot of riffs and runs. That's just vocal agility and flexibility. Classical music requires a lot of these really fast melismas. More contemporary musical theater is incorporating more of these riffs and runs. So it's a good thing to start working toward. An easy way to do that is just take a warm up pattern that you know. So let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or low voices 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and start to just gradually speed that up, paying attention though to if you lose the clarity. So let's say you can go ooh faster, ooh faster, ooh. But let's say you went ooh, I lost clarity, especially on the way down. So then I would slow down again. Ooh, and again, try to work my speed back up. I might stay at that slower speed for a while just to kind of build that muscle memory. I might play around with different vowels to see if another vowel is easier for me. Um, and then, of course, another good way to work toward moving your voice quickly is to actually break down some of the riffs and runs that you hear in songs. You can make them easy ones. Like a good example of that would be if you listen to Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. There's a lot of like 3 note runs, 4 note runs. Left my home in. It's subtle and it goes by quickly, but just working on those for 3 note runs, home in, that's a really good start. Eunice is talking about Earmaster, I think. Um, Potentially. And Nick is saying, speaking of sustaining a note, can you show me an example of maintaining a C5 as on off days some cracking occurs? Nick, I'm probably not going to sustain a C5 um super powerfully this early in the morning for me. However, and you mean a C5, not a C4? So the same thing, if cracking is occurring, then I would probably use a syllable with consonants on it. So instead of, I might, or let's go, mom, 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 mom. Okay, touched it. Mom, 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 mom. So closing to that M instead of ma, 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 because that's going to be more difficult. So I would give yourself that closure of the syllable, or sorry, of the consonant. Mum, 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 mum. Then start to sustain. Mum, 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 mum. Then maybe drop, go to the ma, 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 and then gradually drop that consonant entirely. But I would say see if using a consonant and closing to it helps you. It might not. For my voice, that would help. Um, Cookie is saying, I'm having issues with my neutral larynx. Like when I sing a song, my larynx changes to a high larynx or low larynx, and it started to annoy me so much. I don't know what to do about it. So, Cookie, what I would do is I drop the lyrics. And yes, Eunice, you absolutely could do that. But I would drop the lyrics and I would sing on a syllable that helps you maintain that larynx stability. If remember, laryngeal stability is not our goal. A good, beautiful, consistent tone is our goal. And sometimes your larynx will ride a little bit higher or a little bit lower if that fits the genre, the pitch, the tone that you're trying to accomplish. So it's okay if you notice, oh, my larynx is riding a little bit lower. If you like the sound, that's great. But if you don't like the sound, then I would drop the lyrics. Let's say you're singing sitting on the dock of the bay and your larynx is too low. Left my, or I gotta go a little bit higher. Left my home in Georgia. So say it's a little bit too low of a larynx. You might sing on a na, 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 na. Left my home in Georgia. Just to find that larynx position that you're going for. So again, drop the lyrics, think of a syllable that gets you closer to the sound that you want. So if you want just kind of a neutral sound, something like a na or na, if you are trying to overcorrect a low larynx, go for something brighter like na or nay. If your larynx is too high and you're trying to overcorrect that, go for something with a lower larynx like b, as in book, buh, buh, or yeah, something like that. Okay. Okay, awesome. Nick says that's helpful. And Paul is asking, is singing through the mask the best way to achieve the pop or R&B style tone like Bryson Tiller? So Paul, I don't talk much about singing in the mask because to me it's a result. It's not necessarily an intention, and not every singer really feels their resonance in the same way. Um, I would say what people mean by singing in the mask is you can feel vibration, like imagine a masquerade mask. You can feel vibration in this area in your face. So some people might call it ping, if you're singing uh yeah as opposed to yeah, yeah, maybe a little bit more brightness. Um Honestly, I don't think that I have a really good answer for you there, specifically pop or R&B. I find those styles to use quite a mix of bright and dark. And I would not say that when you're singing R&B, you're always going to have that feeling in the mask. Not necessarily. And pop is such a broad thing. Some singers tend to be a little bit more bright, some a little bit more dark. So I wouldn't say that that's necessarily like the key. I would use your ear, kind of evaluate what sort of tone are they using. Is it on the darker side? Is it on the brighter side? Or is it kind of just very speaking voicey, sort of balanced? Um, and Cookie's asking about vocal twang, just so that I can get back to back to my goals that I'd love to discuss with you. I'm gonna grab a lesson on that for you. Um, okay. So here is lesson on vocal twang. Quick answer is twang. It's kind of that sort of country music sound, that duck quacking sound. It's different than nasality. It's actually narrowing the aryepiglottic sphincter. But anyways, watch that lesson. It's 13 minutes, but it'll give you a good overview and some exercises as well. Okay, so genre specific goals. We talked about technique goals for all singers: matching pitch, understanding registers, accessing chest voice, accessing head voice, going back and forth between the two, laryngeal stability, developing mix, understanding vowels, modifying vowels, working towards sustains, and moving fast. Okay, so then genre specific goals, ask yourself what is required of singers in this genre and use specific songs to help define your goals. I'm not really a fan of setting our goals arbitrarily, just saying, like, I just want to sing the highest or I just want to sing the fastest. There's nothing technically wrong with that, but I think it gets us a little bit away from the heart of music and singing. So I find once a singer is at a certain point, like their voice is kind of put together, they're feeling good about their voice, and then they ask me, okay, where do I go from here? Normally, what I'll tell them is start harmonizing, start learning some harmonies that you hear in songs. And by the way, my best like hack for that is to listen to the song. If you cannot pick up on the harmony, listen to the karaoke version with backing vocals because like magic, the lead is removed, the backing vocals are there so you can sing along with those. So that's usually what I tell them is start harmonizing, my friend. And then the second thing that I'll tell them and that I'm telling you is use the songs you want to sing to help define your goals. So, a good example, I think I've shared this in the past. I wanted to sing this song called Saint Honesty by Sarah Bareilles, and it's pretty much a good fit for my voice, except in the bridge, she kind of sustains this, B4. And at the time, I was really uncomfortable with that. I was like, I can sustain an A4, like belting, um, a B flat sort of, but a B, it's just not feeling good. And so I used that song to define I need to work towards sustaining a B4. I need to give my voice time there. I need to be okay with the fact that the tone is not the best right now. So anyways, whatever your genre is, consider that as your method of goal setting. If this song has really low notes, I'm looking at you, Taylor Swift. If the song has really complex riffs and runs, use that to be like, okay, I want to do that song. That means I need to work on this technique goal. Um, Speaking of inspiration, so a couple ways that I like to be inspired, and let me answer a question real quick. So Kazena says, I have difficulties to sing in mixed voice. Can you tell me some ways to improve my mixed voice? So I would say that for most people, again, if you're a high voiced singer, you're going to start training that mix on or around the A flat 4. So my question for you is, when you say have difficulty staying in mixed voice, are you flipping into head voice? So are you going ah, or are you pulling up chest voice and going ah? So tell me first what's happening, because then I can help you with some exercises. And Sarah is saying I can't stay on the same pitch. Can you tell me any tip for it, please? Um, Sarah, if you're having trouble matching pitch, or like what Paul is saying, kind of wavering, tell me a little bit more specifically. So if you're experiencing what Paul does, kind of wavering, if you're trying to sustain a single note, but you're getting more like um, one thing to look at first would be, how's your connection to your breathing muscles? Do you have a connection to them, or does it really just feel like you're singing from the neck up? Um, Oftentimes, if we have that wavering pitch, okay, thank you for that. If we have that wavering pitch, sometimes it's because we have inconsistent airflow. Maybe we've taken in a lot of air and then we're trying really hard to hold all of this air back that we're not going to use. So I would take in think about, how much breath do I really need for this line coming up? The second thing I would do is start short and detached, or the musical term for that would be staccato. So if you want to sustain, let's pick an easy pitch, either C4 or C3, and we're kind of wavering all over the place. First step, can we sing it staccato? Up, 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 kind of like a machine beeping. Okay, give yourself some support from consonants on either end. So I'm using bup, but it could be mum, 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 mum. All right, it's not pretty. We're just getting that nice straight tone, consistent. I kind of liked bup. I liked how that was feeling. So bup, 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 up. Can you start to sustain within each of those up, up, up? This is helping us control our airflow. We're kind of blocking the flow with those consonants, and then we're letting it go, and then we're blocking it again. So basically, just working from there, being able to gradually sustain. So not going straight for a really long held note, but add those consonants for support. Give yourself short little bursts, and then start to sustain each syllable. Another thing that you can do to provide some support to the vocal folds and help your airflow be a little bit more consistent is to use something like a V or a Z. The reason that's helpful is you're naturally not going to go right? You're In order to sustain that Z sound, you're going to have a pretty consistent airflow. So if you can go from or a lip trill or singing through a straw, and then start to zzz, zzz. Again, we're not singing beautifully here. We're just working on that consistent, steady airflow and consistent pitch as well. So give that a try. Um, and then, getting back to Kazena's question, Kazena was saying, I pull my chest voice. So I do have something for you. Um, Mixed voice yelling is what I'm looking up. How to avoid a yelling tone by accessing some of that thinning out or brightness of mix. So check out that lesson. Um, Again, I gave this advice to someone earlier. I can't remember who, but I gave the advice of using those dopey sounds. So instead of going and yelling, using something slightly dopey like a mum or a buh or buh, as in book, and make sure that it doesn't go wide. It's not going buh, 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 buh. No, you want to use that mum, 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 or buh, buh, buh shape and keep that. And it's okay if you flip into head voice on the top there. So maybe you go buh, 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 buh. That's all right. That's actually a good step. If your tendency is to pull chest voice, it's totally fine that you flip into head voice a little bit, and then you kind of say, okay, I can't take my foot off the gas that much. I need to kind of keep a little bit of that intensity, but I'm using a slightly narrower, more mix friendly vowel like an or an and I'm keeping that shape. I'm not letting my mouth go because that's just going to lead to pulling chest and yelling again. Um, Lorena's asking for vocalists who want to start writing their own songs this year, would you recommend any books? I have a big list of resources for beginning songwriters, so let me grab that for you. And I will quickly go over just a few ways to get inspiration in the new year. So, one kind of fun way is to listen to singers over the course of their career. This could be a professional singer, but it could also be just an amateur singer on YouTube who does one of those progression videos like, here's my singing over the course of a year, here's my singing over the course of 30 days, just to see how they improved. And that can give you that boost of confidence that you too can improve and can change your voice. It's very difficult to see progress in the day to day. And it's even difficult to see progress in the week to week. Sometimes you really do need to record yourself semi regularly and then listen back after, 3 months, 6 months. It can take that long sometimes to make really measurable progress. Um, Another thing to do would be to use a song as sort of your barometer. You could use a song that you can sing okay, but you want to get better at it and record yourself singing it on day 1, record yourself after working on it for a while, go back to it. Another way to get inspiration is to watch voice lessons on YouTube. If you are not in a financial position to afford regular voice lessons, this is a wonderful and free way for you to glean some of the benefit. When I was first starting out teaching, I watched so many voice lessons that teachers had put on YouTube. Seeing how they work with the student, hearing the adjustments they make. It's so great because, look, if you were going to that teacher and having the same issues, that's what they would be doing for you. So you can kind of follow along. I've even done that myself. I've sung along with a singer, especially when I find someone who's like, oh, yeah, I have that issue too. Um, Another way to get inspired is to listen to voice or singing podcasts. I love the Intelligent Vocalist podcast with John Henney. I think it's a fantastic and easy way for you to continue your vocal education. Again, for free, it's a weekly podcast, and the episodes are relatively short, usually maybe 20 to 30 minutes tops. And then another way to get inspired is to mimic other singers and just experiment. Can I make that sound? Can I do a Sia impression? Can I do a Selena Gomez impression? Um, Using a little bit of playtime and mimicry in your practice, I think is really fun. It's a way to keep it fun, keep it playful, while still kind of exploring your voice, and you might find a sound that you like. I think most singers who are self-taught, that's how they learned and how that's how they kind of stumbled upon their own unique sound is trying out this person's style, trying out this person's, and then eventually finding a balance. Um, I want to talk about uh okay, someone is asking a few questions. Oh, Lorena, I have not forgotten about you. Let me find that songwriting resource real quick. Yeah, I cannot remember if this was a blog post or let's see. Okay, here it is. So at the bottom of this, this was on the forum, and Mia was asking, where do you find the weekly podcast? So I just subscribe on Apple Podcasts, but so the Intelligent Vocalist I'm subscribed to. Another one called the Inner Singer podcast I'm subscribed to. Other people really like. I used to listen to this. I don't so much anymore, but it's called the Naked Vocalist. That one's really popular. So you can just, wherever you listen to podcasts, it could just be, Googling, going to those specific websites and listening on the web. Or if you have a podcast app on your phone, take a look at, singing or voice and see what are the top charts. See if you like the style of the podcast host. That really matters. A lot of them I'm sure will have good information, but do you like their delivery? Are they saying things in a way that's understandable and clear for you? That can help you narrow it down, which ones you like to listen to. Um, Carl is saying, "What's missing?" What do you mean, Carl? So the songwriting resources, let me know if that came up for you. The books on songwriting, writing down the bones, writing better lyrics, songwriters on songwriting, Tunesmith, song building, the emotion thesaurus, the songwriter's guide to mastering co-writing, and then my picks for just books on creativity and writing in general, The War of Art, The Artist's Way, Letters to a Young Poet, Bird by Bird, and On Writing. Again, those are not music specific, but uh, anyways, let me know if you can access all of that. There are songwriting apps, virtual instruments, randomized progression generators, a few, yeah, resources on rhyming, chords and scales, um, and then a few prompts as well to get you started writing if you just don't know where to start. Anyways, okay, avoiding the comparison trap. Oh my goodness. This is huge and it's something that I still have to remind myself. I don't think any singer is immune to this. I really don't. If you are a singer and you feel immune to the comparison trap, then I'm so happy for you. Truly, truly, I am. I think that most of us, though, compare ourselves to other singers. So you need to understand that we're all born with different instruments. We just are. In the same way that your speaking voice doesn't sound exactly like anyone else's, your singing voice is not going to sound exactly like everyone else's. You will have different strengths and weaknesses than I do, and that's fine. I think it's important, though, to understand both of those together, strengths and weaknesses. We get very focused on our weaknesses and we think, oh, well, I can't move my voice as fast as Ariana Grande, or I can't belt as high as Pink. All right. They also do have weaknesses. I know that's hard to believe, but they do. And you probably won't know what those weaknesses are as a listener because they're not going to put them on display. They're not going to sing songs that display those weaknesses. But I bet you they're there. I bet you their voice teacher could tell you what their weaknesses are. Um, of course, their weaknesses might be less extreme and of course, this is the comparison trap too. We would trade um, our strengths and weaknesses for someone else's that we see as superior, right? You might be like, well, okay, Ariana Grande has weaknesses, but I'll take it. I'll take the whole bundle. um, so just understand though that we're born with different instruments. Understand also where another singer is at in their singing journey and where you are. A lot of times we're comparing ourselves after 6 months of work, 2 years of work. We're comparing ourselves against someone who has 18 years of work or more. Um, and we have to also count the untrained, the informal training, right? We were talking a little bit before about imitation, mimicry, and that's really how most singers learn to sing from a young age. You might say, okay, this young singer over here, let's say I find a really, really talented 16-year-old singer on The Voice. And I'm like, oh my goodness, they're only 16 and they sound amazing. And I do not sing as amazing as them. They've probably been singing, if they're on The Voice at age 16, I can almost guarantee they've been singing since they could talk. They've been singing since they were like 3 years old. Um, so that's still 13 years of maybe informal training, but experience nonetheless. So understand that and give yourself some grace for where you're at. Celebrate the achievements that you have at this moment in your journey. Understand that you sound different inside your own head. It's always going to be quite jarring to listen to a recording of yourself across the board. Like 90% of singers, maybe more, that I've worked with do not like the sound of their own voice on a recording. So just understand that if you're experiencing that discomfort, that cringy feeling, you're a part of the majority. Um, you do get used to it, but it is not fun at first. It's really not fun to listen to yourself, but it's useful. It really is. Remind yourself, and I know this sounds cheesy, but hey, we're talking about goal setting. Remind yourself that your only competition is you in the past. You yesterday, you last month, last year. Your competition is not other people. I truly wish that singing was not a competition. I wish we did not have voice competitions. Because I don't think that singing should be a competition. I just don't. I just don't. In the same way that we have different artists we love listening to, you know, one of my favorite artists in the world is James Taylor. Another one of my favorite artists is Sufjan Stevens. Would either of them win a singing competition? No, I can't imagine that happening. But should they be singing and creating music? Yes, 100%. Um, anyways, and then a last little piece of advice, if a particular singer or artist makes you feel jealous or less than consistently, it's okay to avoid their posts or their music. Um, that's just maybe that's an unpopular thing to say, but I believe that if in the same way that if you follow someone on Instagram and they just are always making you feel like less than, you can mute that person, you can unfollow them, it's okay. So if a particular singer is just always stirring up feelings of jealousy in you and it's not motivating you, don't watch their stuff. I follow singers who are amazing, who are better than me in many areas, and I continue to follow them or listen to their music if it inspires me, if it motivates me to practice. But anyways, enough said on that. What progress looks like at different stages in your singing journey, you can kind of revisit the very beginning of this video where we went from matching pitch all the way to vowel modification. So understanding where you're at and, you know, wherever you're at in your singing journey, that's where you are. And that's totally fine. There's no reason to want to fast forward or um, think you should be further along than you are. You are where you are. That's it. That's all we can work with. Um, and last, before we go into just more Q&A, um, what good practice habits are that you might consider implementing maybe for the first time in 2022. Having a daily warm up and making it a short one. I can't tell you how many singers are like, "Oh, yeah, I do this warm up, then this warm up, then this warm up." If that works for you, great. I don't wanna take it away from you, but it's really nice if you have a simple 5-minute warm up or a 10-minute warm up that's kind of your go-to. Make a playlist on YouTube, have some go-to warm ups that you know get your voice moving well, that you can use just as a way to stretch out the voice daily, whether or not you're gonna keep singing. Um, Consider a weekly or more frequent lesson. And I don't mean a private lesson unless that's already in your schedule. It could be an online course lesson if you're a 30-day singer student that you're watching a new lesson each week, or it could be just on YouTube. You're on here, you're on New York Vocal Coaching, you're watching a voice lesson from another teacher. Um, Once a week or more frequently if you want, just learning one new thing about the voice. Weekly or more frequently, some sort of vocal education. So, subscribing to a podcast that you like the host and it's good information. Rent a book every now and then on vocal technique. Consider joining the mailing list of voice teachers that you like and want to hear from. You want their input and influence. Of course, anytime you're joining someone's email list, they'll try to sell you things every now and then. If you don't mind that, then it's an okay trade-off. For me, I belong to probably, you know, I don't even know at this point, probably up to 10, different voice teachers' mailing lists because every now and then they'll send a free resource or a blog post or a video. It's not always just trying to sell you something. So, consider that. Play with different ear training apps if that's one of your goals and one of the things that you find fun. Um, when you have 5-10 minutes to kill instead of scrolling through social media, use that time to train your ears. When it's a game, it's a lot more tolerable. And then last thing for good practice habits is to keep a running list of songs that you've worked on that you feel suit your voice well. These could be songs that you're just building up a list of for like karaoke, for singing around the campfire. They could be audition songs that could go in your book if you're auditioning for things. But keep that running list because you will forget. And it's really nice to know, oh yeah, I did work on that song a year ago, but I might need to brush up, but I won't need to put in all of that work again. It won't be like starting from scratch. All right, so now it's Q&A time. I know I had to talk at you a bit to get through get through my lesson plan. Um, so someone's asking, can you please suggest me some tips to get back my singing voice due to some reasons? I could do any sort of vocal exercises nor took care of my voice. I feel lost. So I would say start small and start slow. Um, and Cookie, yes, it's Q&A now. Sorry, I had to get through my all the things. Um, Start slow and start small. A really gentle way to start vocalizing again would be singing through a straw or semi-occluded exercises. So that just means partially closed. A hum is partially closed. An NG, a lip trill. Any of those exercises are going to be really gentle on your voice. And you could don't even need to follow a video for this. I'll get you a video real quick, um, a gentle warm up to try, but you wouldn't even have to follow this. You could just be sliding around, doing some patterns wherever feels comfy, and then gradually expanding that range. So let's say I'm going, can I go a little bit lower? Can I go a little bit higher? Again, kind of following your voice's lead. But here is that gentle warm up. And I do use a lot of semi-closed sounds in there. Sheila saying, I often feel intimidated when I cannot hit certain notes others can. I want to learn to love my own voice. Yeah, Sheila, I have been there too. Um, it's encouraging though if you are working on growing your range or expanding your range. What's really motivating is, let's say you're working on this, A. It doesn't matter that other singers are singing much higher than that. If you're working on that A, that is where you're at, and it's going to feel really good then when you stretch to that B flat and you remember, oh wow, that A used to feel really strained or unstable, or I was kind of cracking on it, and now I can sing it, and now I'm working on the B flat. That's going to be more motivating for you. um, but it's really, it's tough. It's tough. The fact that we have unique instruments, it's a double-edged sword. Um, why do some people take to singing relatively easily? Um, you could say it's genetics, you could say it's early childhood exposure to music or singing, you could say it's just, the hours of experience that they have up to this point, their anatomy. Why do you hear some voices and it's like, oh, that is a beautiful, silky radio voice, and why do other people not have voices like that? Mostly that's anatomy. Um, so it's tricky. It is tricky. I think another thing, Sheila, that I would say is add singers to your playlist that might be more limited singers. If all you're listening to are the singers with, 4 octave ranges, I'm exaggerating, but if you're listening to, you know, Pink and Mariah Carey and just crazy voices, you're gonna start to think that that's the norm, and that's not the norm. So I would add singers to your list who have a more limited range, who might have semi-obvious vocal flaws. Um, Bob Dylan is always the example that people use, but I would say even, a singer like Norah Jones, she's incredible at what she does. She does not belt crazy high, loud notes, and she doesn't have to. For her style, it's unnecessary. It wouldn't even really fit. Um, so I have an article in mind that I compiled a list of both lower voiced singers, because I find low voices are underrepresented in pop music currently. Um, you also might need to look back in history, in music history, and not be super current. Um, anyways, so let me find that article for you. So I compiled a list of low voiced singers, and then I also included soprano voices who don't belt, or who aren't known for belting. Um, Both of these I think are important, because when you look up a list of singers, like, you'll look up altos or sopranos or mezzos, and a lot of pop singers are kind of covering all ranges. Um, anyways, okay. So here's this article link for you. Cookie saying, I don't know what's going on with my vibrato. Like, when I sing and get to vibrato, I shake my jaw while doing it and lose my breath, and it hurts a bit too. Is there anything to fix that? Ooh, so Cookie, I would say, shaking your jaw when adding vibrato, it's it can kind of intensify the sound. The ideal is that we're able to sing with vibrato without that jaw moving. So, what I might encourage you to do is to add vibrato with the mouth closed. So, singing on a hum, mm, mm, and relaxing into that vibrato, letting it release. But but keeping that mouth relatively closed. That'll give you a little bit of support. That closure will give you some support. And then, of course, you'll be less tempted to shake the jaw since the mouth is closed and you're not singing on an open vowel. It hurting, I don't know exactly what to say about that. Um, I would I guess my question is what's hurting? Is the jaw hurting or is somewhere in your throat itself hurting? But regardless, I would say try that out, adding vibrato on something semi-closed. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, I won't be here next week for a live lesson. I will be back the following week. Let me tell you when that'll be. We're going to be talking about range and range extension. So that will be fun and is on most singers' lists to accomplish. Um, so happy New Year for next week. And then I will see you Tuesday, January 11th, 10 a.m. Pacific. So same time as today. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. Bye.